All right, Halloween. You ready to move on?
I'm ready.
All right,
I'm ready.
Halloween Kills, which is the how many is this now?
Ooh, 12?
All
I don't
right,
know.
9 and 10 were the Rob Zombie ones, so it's the 12th Halloween film, and the second in this particular run, but also the third technically because the first movie is real and 11 and 12 are real. It's a
Right.
requel. That's what
Re-
the whole Scream movie, the new Scream movie, is all about this phenomenon.
okay.
Yeah, very meta.
Oh,
Yeah,
continuity breaks and then bringing back. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
All right, so we've got David Gordon Green back to direct in the stalwart slash shitty comedy director slash great HBO comedy director. And he, this is what he's doing with his life now. I don't know
Yeah.
why, but all right, David.
We'll get back to making more idiosyncratic films, I think.
Yeah, I mean, he's still doing Righteous Gemstones on the side.
No, but I mean, like, I want to see, like, Snow Angels type stuff again.
I,
That'd be
I
kind
know,
of.
but you know what he's attached to after this Halloween trilogy? He's going to do the
What?
same thing to The Exorcist. He's attached to make
Uh,
like a requel, basically, of The Exorcist.
huh.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. All right. Well.
Yeah, who knows?
And spoiler alert, my star rating of this movie is on the fence.
Mine isn't.
So,
I have a definitive star rating.
well, I kind of enjoyed having it on the fence for my final episode. We'll see how it rolls, which way, if Daniel can persuade me. Out of this, even though I thought I saw his review originally, but I don't really remember what the star rating was. So
Okay.
we'll see.
Well, Green is back to direct. He's also still co-writing with his partner, Danny McBride. And the great Danny McBride, yeah. And we have added a third writer, I think just because he's working on all of these simultaneously, so each movie is going to have a different co-writer.
Sure.
Scott Teems is the fella he chose for this one, and he's a really good TV writer who wrote a lot of Rectify back in the day.
Oh, great show.
Yeah. So, this one came out October 15th, 2021. It premiered simultaneously in theaters and on Peacock. Peacock, the worst streaming service in the world, was trying to piggyback on what HBO Max had been doing so successfully. And frankly, they fucking did it successfully too. It's a really good model that everyone should be doing.
Yeah.
It had a budget of $20 million. It ended up making 131.6 in theaters, not counting streams on Peacock. So that's a pretty fucking successful movie.
Yeah.
It came in at number 16 at the box office for the year between two big Disney kids movies, Encanto, the Lin-Manuel Miranda thing, and Cruella, the live-action Cruella de Vil movie, which I saw in theaters.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
You waiting for something else to end before you? Is that what brought you into Cruella?
I
Waiting for
can't.
something else there?
I think it was just like they got me. Like the trailers, it was Emma Stone. Like she looked cool and she looked kind of hot
boy.
too as Cruella. And cute
Wow.
dogs. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Doesn't take much.
it's a bad decision. All right.
Did you now? You watched this when it came out.
Yeah, and I
Right.
rewatched the other one.
I waited until last night to watch this movie. I did want to see it when it came out, but as per usual, I knew we'd cover it, and I just didn't know when. So I
Well, you could have watched it for free on Peacock back then, rather than.
no thanks. Yeah, that's quite all right. Now I was only able to get a hold of the extended cut,
Me too.
but all right. So
I
good.
was
We're
not
on the
able
same-
to detect any difference though.
Okay, yeah. I mean, as far as I read, there's only there's a thing at the very end that's one scene that isn't really integral to much of the plot.
I
so.
wonder if I didn't even notice.
It's a phone call. The phone call that she makes to Michael, or he makes to her when she calls her daughter. And
Sure.
He picks up, he's breathing, and she says, "I'm coming for you, Michael."
Yeah,
Apparently
right.
that was excised.
I don't
That
recall.
was apparently excised. Yeah, didn't matter.
People's Choice did recognize this film as well, so I don't know if you want to play the theme again, or you could sing it. Up to you.
The people make the choice. It's up to the people to choose as they see fit. Fitbit shooting the People's Choice Awards for the choice awards for the people. So that was a live version.
Yeah, it was good.
As to be expected with live versions, it's not always like it is on the record. There's differences.
Change it up, yeah.
Yeah, there's differences, but the Fitbit, the audience definitely wanted the Fitbit in there. They didn't want to change that lyric.
It's like when artists they change, if there's the name of a city in a song, they'll change it to the name of the city you're in watching them. That's always fun, right?
That's fucking Spade's bit in Hollywood Minute when he talks about the fucking Eagles. Remember that?
They fucking do that. I remember seeing Green Day, and they performed the song Holiday. And they fucking include, he was like, "Oh, New York," he said it.
Yeah. On a dark Arizona highway. Cool Scottsdale wind in my hair. Yeah, buddy.
This is what it was. In that song, there's one moment where the music drops out and Billy Joe goes, "The representative from California has the floor." But when I saw them live, he goes, "The representative from New York has the floor." And I gotta say, all of us in the audience were like, "Oh my God, I can't believe you fucking did that."
Yeah, that's
I'm
awesome.
gonna cry. I'm gonna start to cry.
Yeah, he knows me.
Oh my God. He knows what city he's currently in. That's unbelievable.
Which, for someone who tours a lot, that's impressive.
No.
What if he got it wrong?
That would be...
Representative from Bayonne, New Jersey.
I mean, that has happened. I've seen clips of that happening, and that's always
Really?
funny. Yeah. Wrestlers have done that. It's great.
That's great.
Okay. Henry, the people nominated this film for Best Drama, and frankly, it lost to that Cruella de Vil movie. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Okay, wrong category for both movies.
I don't think they have a horror category anymore at the People's Choice Awards. Jamie Lee Curtis was nominated for the Best Drama Star of the year, and she lost to Kevin Hart for the film Fatherhood. I don't even really remember when that came out.
Well, as listeners may recall, I really liked Jamie Lee Curtis in the first Halloween here that we covered with the David Gordon Green. I even thought she was possibly Oscar worthy.
I remember that
because I thought it was such a great performance. Mm-hmm. So I understand giving her some accolades.
Yeah, did you not feel that way this time?
I did. She's not in the movie very much.
Yeah.
Which
did that bother you?
It did a little. Yeah. It did.
Yeah, I get that.
It was just weird. I didn't want it to bother me because I don't think there's other performances that are weak. I like the cast.
There are.
David... Well, I like Judy Greer and I like the granddaughter and I like that guy who plays Lonnie and Anthony Michael Hall. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do with him? Of course, but you kind of need Laurie Strode to be spearheading this baby.
No, you don't.
Works in Halloween 2, just leaving her alone in the hospital. But it was a little disappointing. I was just more surprised. You know what I mean?
Yeah, everyone was. I'm gonna give you my take on this.
Okay.
All right. So this movie is the second in this new Halloween trilogy, right? And what I think they did with this movie is bold and stupid. I like it personally. I think this is a good, valuable Halloween movie that I really like a lot of bits in, and I think it's messy and complicated, but I think it has something to say, and I think ultimately it's a really, really worthwhile movie.
Right. All right. Interested.
Then, though, I will say that they gave a movie that nobody wanted to see. This is not a Halloween movie anyone ever fucking wanted. And so when the reaction to it was pretty muted, I didn't disagree. Like, there are a lot of 1-star and 2-star reviews of this film on Letterboxd and elsewhere.
I noticed.
And I don't even really hate them. I get that, but here's the difference between this and something like The Conjuring 3. Because I think The Conjuring 3, similarly, gave everyone a movie they didn't ask for. Right?
Okay.
They wanted something else from that movie, and instead, that studio handed a movie to the public that they knew was bad, that they knew wasn't up to snuff with the first 2 movies, and they always knew it. All right?
Yeah, I agree.
Whereas, I don't think that's what's happening here.
No, this movie's confident in its tone, where it's going, what it wants to do, I think. I think it's confident.
Yeah, I agree. I just think that when they tell you that they're going to make a trilogy of Halloween movies starring Jamie Lee Curtis, and then they give you the first one that is a Halloween movie starring Jamie Lee Curtis, and then they give you this, which Jamie Lee Curtis is barely fucking in, that is going to piss people off.
Right,
that's going to super annoy people. And not
Which is
only
a natural reaction.
Yeah, and not only that, but structurally, this has nothing to do with the slasher franchise. This is not a slasher movie whatsoever. It is extrapolating on the slasher genre, and it is trying to give a depiction of how a small town could potentially react to a slasher, especially, I think, the movie is trying to make many points about the way the world is today, which I think people don't want to hear, A, and B, certainly don't want to hear out of their Halloween movie.
Yeah. I think both those points are valid. Maybe the second point even more so. Like going to the movie to watch Halloween Kills and not really wanting to even think about how fucking horrible human nature is lately.
No, that's built into the fucking Purge or whatever, but I think what people wanted out of this movie was Michael waking up and murdering more people and Jamie Lee Curtis defending herself again. And that's fine, and I'm sure that the third movie will go back to this somewhat. I do think that it's going to be experiment. I don't think I think the first Halloween was David Gordon Green saying, "I can do that. Now let me show you this." Yeah, and the people don't want this. But
it was him just probably wanting to show that he can take this classic masterpiece and he can do something very, very worthwhile with it. And I think the way he went about that was superb. It was already ruined by the Rob Zombie ones, and then he takes it.
It's ruined a million times over, though.
Correct. Yeah. So then he takes it and decides to take it from the first movie and continue just from that. I think that was a good decision, and he's such a good director that I kind of never really doubted that the Halloween would be very, very, very good. And so I think you're right. I think once he did that might have been in his head that, well, if this is going to be a trilogy, I really don't see how I can pull off, or do I even want to, a second movie with Jamie Lee Curtis as a protagonist, and then a third movie with her as a protagonist, where it's all the same thing. So I guess
there's an expectation to having Jamie Lee Curtis as the protagonist of these movies. Yes. You want the movie to be some kind of... Halloween's the greatest horror movie ever made, a lot of people think, including me. And so, there's a certain expectation that comes with that. It would be like making an Exorcist movie today with Linda Blair, or making, a fucking Rosemary's Baby movie today with Mia Farrow. There's extra weight attached to it. So, I don't think people going to see the new Jamie Lee Curtis Halloween movie have any interest in watching the difficult, experimental middle chapter in a trilogy.
No, yeah, right, yeah. Well, also, not to be snobby, but I mean, I don't mind if I'm snobby. I think we know that.
You're on the way out anyway. Who cares?
David Gordon Green. I mean, most people who are going to see this, they don't know who the fuck he is.
No.
They don't. They don't care.
No.
You and I care.
No, and people listening to this might even be like, shut the fuck up, stop watching the credits. If you watch the movie like I did, you would hate it. And they might have a fucking point. But I'm sorry, I'm watching this through the lens of David Gordon Green's filmography, which I think this film is a part of.
Of course it's a part of, but you mean...
Well, I mean, it is technically, of course, but I also mean that it fits in with things like Joe and Prince Avalanche and Snow Angels that are smaller.
He's dealing with crowd psychology. He's going in different places that, I think that some of it is just very, very messy, very obviously very messy, but it was hard for me to tell if that was even intentional. Or slipshod, and I don't think it is slipshod because I think he's too careful of a director to make mistakes like that. And I did like the diversionary tactic of going and spending so much time in the hospital and having that never actually be a location that Michael Myers shows up in.
Yeah.
And I thought that was very cool because it also supplanted something I thought was going to happen, where I thought he was going to take us into the hospital a la homage to Halloween 2, which I still think it was, obviously. It's a doff of the hat. But
as Rob Zombie did. You can't have a fucking Halloween 2 without a fucking hospital.
Yeah. But then he subverts that. And then just goes more on some mob violence. Now, one of the things that I think was, it works if you can just get into it as a straight-up horror flick, and it doesn't work if you start in any way checking the reality boxes, which you shouldn't be doing because, it's fucking Halloween. But when they're in the hospital and the crowd starts getting crazy, there's a couple of things that happen where I was watching and I was like, this part is kind of straining credulity, and you may roll your eyes at me when I say this, but like
I feel the opposite.
Okay, well, all I was going to say was when they show the crowd like running up the stairs, I guess, and breaking the doors down and stuff like that, instead of just citizens, you start to see like doctors and nurses also in that crowd, and that just felt odd to me, like because in the beginning,
do you think doctors are smart?
No.
Okay, good.
No. Because in the beginning of this sequence, it felt like the people who were trying to maintain control in the hospital were that sheriff, who, by the way, didn't get enough time.
I agree. And Omar Darcy, you mean? The black guy? He's really good, underrated actor.
They don't give him anything here. But and the doctors and the nurses who are trying to triage people and treat them, and then all of a sudden it doesn't, I guess it's part of the psychology of crowds where they don't have a definitive moment where they all just start to join. All of a sudden they're all just joined up. And so really the only voice of reason, I guess, is Judy Greer in that moment. So that was just a little odd, but it's part of the whole sequence, and I think as a sequence it's very beautifully shot. It was kind of jarring, and also it was funny. I thought it was a good take though, when they possibly could ever mistake Michael Myers for this little guy that's running around.
Well, he's wearing the outfit of that mental hospital. Yeah.
Crowd that angry and crazy for blood, that's all it took.
Yeah, but to me, I don't understand how anyone could sit through the last 3 years of COVID in conjunction with the January 6th riots, which happened on the basis of an easily sussed out lie. I don't understand how anyone could live through all of that and look at this movie and say it's unrealistic.
No, that's very true.
To me, it's the kind of movie that if it came out 10 years ago, I'd have said this is stupid. But I've never had more belief
Right.
in the stupidity of angry mobs than I do at this point in life. After sitting through Me Too and cancel culture and January 6th and COVID and flat earthers and QAnon, it's just, that's the world we live in. People are stupid and evil and susceptible to stupidity and evil.
And it does create a great... I'm sorry, continue.
No, I just... To me, the film happens fairly gradually. It starts... The main plot of the movie, as far as I'm concerned, and people want it to be Jamie Lee Curtis, but it's not, is the sort of support group that's happening at this bar on Halloween of people
Which
that
I thought was cool.
Yeah, it's great. It's people that have survived Michael Myers, and it's Anthony Michael Hall as what's the name of that character? Tommy Doyle. Apparently, Paul Rudd was offered the role because he played it in Halloween 6, but he was making Ghostbusters at the time and couldn't.
I read that.
Yeah. That would have been awesome. But it's Anthony Michael Hall as Tommy Doyle, and you've got the one who was Nurse Marion in the original movie, and you've got Lonnie, who we get a flashback in this movie, which sets him up to be part of this. And, Lonnie, get your ass away from there! And,
of course, that's all I thought about as soon as they said the name Lonnie.
Yeah. Every time Michael was after him in this, I was like, get your ass away from there, bro.
And Lonnie the adult, we just watched in the Midnight Mass.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. That's funny. Yeah, I didn't make that connection.
That's great.
So that crew, they find out, like, via a news report that Michael has, like, broken out and shit. And that, Laurie has been attacked and is in the hospital. And so they go out and they're going to find Michael. All right? And they bring along some other people in the bar. They then think they see Michael in the car. I don't think we're ever even told whether that actually was Michael or not.
It wasn't. I don't think it was. I think it's the guy, the crazy little guy. Yeah.
Yeah, and so, I mean, that's all really compelling until it explodes into them all at the hospital, and this whole town is, like, endeavoring to murder Michael. They go find him at, like, his childhood home, because that's where he goes. Always. He loves his childhood home.
I think he does, yeah.
And it's really spruced up now. Yeah. Because Big John and Little John are living there. The gay couple. Yeah. My favorite characters in the movie by far.
It's, I think it's an interesting, what I was going to say before, it's an interesting dichotomy to bring up in a movie where this embodiment of horror movie evil, this relentless, remorseless slasher, you spend a good deal of this movie watching victims of him or victims related to him, or not even, maybe some of them have nothing to do with him, being awful too. And so it's one of the first movies in the Halloween, if not the only one, where you're not rooting for Michael Myers, like you don't want him to get away, but like you're looking at this fucking mob, and it's so disturbing that it like creates this.
There's no one really to root for in the movie, and that might be a problem for some people.
Yeah, I mean, well, I think the group that you mentioned,
I think you root for them at first until it gets to like the hospital part, and you're just like, oh my god, dude.
I think that Lonnie and the granddaughter Allison and her boyfriend, I don't think they ever enter that moral quandary. I think they stay away from that area so they don't have to encounter that.
But are we interested in them? I feel like they're cursorily in this film.
Yeah, but I liked what they were doing because that brought like another search party aspect to it. When it brings the babysitter, the kid who was being babysit by the what's her name? They brought her back from the original, who was a kid in the original.
Lindsay. Yeah, right. Kyle Richards, who's a Real Housewife now.
And That's great. And I liked to see her and that she's unscathed.
Yeah, and you know what? Honestly, not bad in this movie. I was expecting her to be embarrassing, and she's not.
I didn't know what you had just told me, so I had no expectations.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, I mean, I thought she was totally fucking fine. And it was just like, that was cool, you know, and they didn't really hammer home too blatantly like their appearances in the prior movies. Like, that's Gordon Green, I think. Like, he knows
they
how.
did. There's that long, fucking Tommy Doyle has to get up and bum everybody out at that fucking talent show. Are you kidding me? Can you imagine if you went to?
I didn't mean that.
What?
I meant in about Lindsay and those characters where they quickly reference who they are.
But in that speech, he does that. Like, to me,
it's very heavy-handed.
Yeah.
Very.
All it is they're having a talent show at a bar during Halloween, which is not a thing that has ever existed, but we'll accept it for the movie. And Tommy Doyle has to get up instead of singing a fucking song or spooking people out with a ghost story. He just bums everybody out. Let's raise a glass to all my friends who were murdered. Fucking Christ. And he goes through them all one by one. Like, let me remind you where you know them all. She was the little girl from the first movie. All right? Remember her? I was the little boy.
I forgot he did the reminder.
Yeah.
I was just thinking of the little flashback. That's true. He does take us through who's who.
She was a nurse. You might not remember her, but she got attacked in a car once at the beginning of that movie.
You might not remember. I wasn't there either, but I heard that most people remember the hand hitting the window as a very iconic moment in her life. I mean, in her life, that moment.
Yeah, people remember that moment because that weird ray gun sound effect that happens. Yeah. They redo that whole scene. There's a couple of things in this movie where, like, we redo shit from. I never like that.
I didn't like it, especially sometimes they fuck with your mind, like they fuck with your memory. Like, you're like, I knew this particular thing didn't happen, but I was like, that's an odd thing to show. Like when they show Loomis getting Michael outside the house,
well, that
around him, I'm like, what?
That's very compelling because what we're doing is we're ignoring the second movie. Like, there is no Halloween 2.
Yes,
and
that's
so
true.
Halloween ends. Sorry, that's the next movie. Halloween ends. But the original Halloween, at the end of that film, Michael gets away. And so in this movie, we have some flashbacks to 1978 where it's like we sort of have to show what happened. Like, in the 2018 movie, he's in a mental hospital. Well, we don't need to, but they at least made it part of the story. I really enjoyed Will Patton's flashback of him being...
I did too.
Yeah, the cop in the house, and he shoots his partner and blames it on Michael. And he says at the end of the movie, he sees the insanity in Loomis's eyes. Like, he just wants blood in that moment, so he knew he could blame it on Michael. And that is so just real and true, too. And that is great.
You know what it was? I think, though, for me, it was... I actually agree with everything you said, but it demystified a lot of the stuff that I didn't want demystified. Like, showing Michael get captured in kind of such a banal manner where he's
I understand that. It's sort of like if in one of the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies, like, we went back and saw, like, how Uncle Ben died. Like, I never need to see that.
Yeah, and it's like he's just surrounded by, like, 8 cops, and it's like, oh.
Well, you know why? Because we're doing a redo of the tableau at the end of the prologue of the first movie, with Michael as a kid standing with the knife and the camera pulling out in front of the house. It's like basically an exact redo of that tableau.
Nice pull. I didn't rewatch it, so I don't remember. Okay,
I didn't need to rewatch it. I've seen that film thousands of times.
No, I know exactly what you're talking about. Okay, but yeah, well, yeah, you're illuminating me, sir. You're illuminating me a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's a fucking good Halloween movie. And if you don't like this one, you know what? That's fine. Like, this is a divisive movie for a reason. But I'm gonna be part of the divide that's really into it. All right. All right. Fucking. Can we talk about Big John and Little John now?
Sure.
All right. There's a gay couple living in Michael's childhood home, played by Michael McDonald from The Kids in the Hall, and this dude from that show, The Mick, who is a good comedy writer. And what's the actor's name? I should know
Michael
that.
McDonald from Kids in the Hall.
Yeah.
I thought it was the dude from Mad TV, the tall, skinny guy from Mad TV.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Kevin McDonald is from Kids in the Hall. Michael McDonald is from Mad TV. You're right. All
I
right.
was like, what?
Yeah, it is. It's Michael McDonald from Mad TV and Scott MacArthur, who got his start as like a TV writer, and then they put him on the show The Mick that he was writing for, and he was so good that now he gets cast and stuff.
Okay.
And I think they're so funny, and I love them going through this fucking Michael Myers house, the way it is like, it looks like the Myers home, but it's redecorated to look like a gay couple's home. And the best line in the entire movie is when MacArthur is describing Michael's initial murders to somebody. And he just goes, he stabbed his sister in the tits. And you know what? That line is funny because he did.
Yeah.
He did stab his sister in the tits. And it's not something we ever talk about, but he did.
They say that to the kids, right? When the
Yes.
when they're pissed off at the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, they are funny.
They're a delight, and I was very upset to see them murdered.
We knew that would happen, though.
Yeah.
I was
hoping
upset.
maybe one of them would survive.
I was upset to see the old couple murdered like that. I was like, leave elderly people alone in this movie.
I was upset they killed Nurse Marion.
I didn't think that was going to
I
happen.
know. What a poor woman.
I know.
Michael's such a loser. Like, what a
Like, come
fucking
on, Mike.
asshole.
Listen, Mike, here's your problem. You can be a slasher killer.
Kill the kids. We never get mad at Jason. We fucking never get mad at Jason because he's
Very
killing
good point.
the right people.
It's a very good point. Sometimes Michael is too indiscriminate.
Stick to horny teens. What are you doing murdering the elderly? What are you, COVID?
Leave the elderly couple alone. You know, come on, man.
Leave the gay couple alone.
Leave them alone. Leave Marion alone, man. She got through you once. I mean, she survived. You
Kill Lori's daughter's boyfriend. Kill that fucking kid. He's got a killable face.
Well, he did.
He was
killed
really
him.
good in that show, You, on Netflix.
Okay. Yeah, well, he did kill him. And so by the end of the movie, of course, I didn't think this would happen, but Judy Greer is dead.
Everyone's fucking dead at the end of this movie.
So in Halloween Ends, I guess we're going to get a granddaughter-grandmother story going on, I imagine.
Yeah, I've read the weirdest things about Halloween Ends. Like, it takes place 4 years after this, and it's a lot about, like, people dealing with their trauma, and it references, like, Trump and COVID. Like, there's all kinds of shit in the next one.
You know, I didn't read the Trump thing, but I read the COVID thing. I think it was a David Gordon Green quote that he was gonna deal with COVID. How do you feel about that? Like, do you want in this?
No, I don't want it, but I'm also like, you know, I'm ready to see the artist's art. Show me what you got.
It would be interesting though, because of course, if he incorporates COVID into it, it adds an entire other layer of tension and pent up anger of anyone in the movie. So
Yeah.
it'll be very interesting to see.
Michael should start wearing a mask, like a surgical mask. He could really.
Over the Shatner mask or under it?
No, I don't. I think you should get rid of the Shatner mask. It'll help him blend in more.
Yeah.
He's just wearing N95.
I'm surprised they demasked him. I kept wanting to squint so I didn't see his face. I didn't want that. Was a little much. I don't want all that.
Well, we didn't really see it head on.
We know he's bald now.
Well, that's all right. I think we saw him in the last movie from behind, at least.
Did we?
Yeah, like remember they go to that mental hospital, they're all standing in those big squares? It was in the trailer.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Okay, cool.
There's that like podcast. Remember those characters from the last movie?
It's They kill. He kills them.
Yeah. All right. Should we move on to the Chucky fake podcast?
What are we doing with this? What are you giving?
I give it a 3, man. There's a mixed bag of a movie, and I think it's a solid 3.
You've talked me up. I was fencing with myself between a 3 and a 2 because
I get it.
It's very, very messy, but talking it through, and putting it into context sort of David Gordon Green, which people might not find valid.
I think it's going to age well because it's different enough from the rest.
That's
Like without the weight of expectations, like when you're binging 12 Halloween movies, this one's going to stand out.
That's what I'm going to see. And it is bold. You know, if nothing else, it's bold to just take it in a completely different setting and not only Jamie Lee Curtis not being it that much, but quite honestly, for certain significant portions of the movie, Michael Myers isn't in it as much.
And you know what? If you don't like this fucking movie, just ignore it. Forget it exists. You already have 2 great movies that bring Laurie Strode back and tell the, final Halloween story, quote unquote. Like the 2018 movie was awesome. Like if that wasn't good enough for you, you still have the fucking Steve Miner one from 1998, which like a lot of people have affection for. Like, go nuts. There are 12 Halloween movies, all right? 12!
A lot of pumpkins to carve there.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go 3 as well. My MVP, because I thought he had some pathos to him, and I just like the actor. I'm going to go with Lonnie.
Lonnie, all right. I'm going with Big John, baby.
Okay. Gotcha. LVP. Let me see.
I gotta say, I'm not sure Anthony Michael Hall still belongs in movies.
He looks, he doesn't look great.
He looks fine. He's had work done. He's built because that's what he does. He's been like fighting the nerd thing since fucking Johnny Be Good. And
very true.
Yeah. Where we all had to pretend
you
that he could be a college football player. I thought that the performance wasn't particularly good.
Okay.
I'm going to say
I didn't feel that way.
I think some of them, like Kyle Richards actually acquitted herself really well, considering like I thought the really old guy who plays like Annie's dad, Sheriff Brackett, like he has a couple scenes in this movie, and the guy just looks dead.
He is very old. I don't want to cop out here, but I kind of want to give it to CGI Loomis.
I love CGI Loomis.
I'm not nuts about that idea in general ever, as you know. I mean, not that you are, but but when you were explaining to me how that kind of ties in, you kind of like turned me, and I was like, okay, well, I guess they did it well. All right, well, who should I pick, man? I mean, I guess since it could have been Paul Rudd, and that would have been really, really weird and bizarre to see Paul Rudd in a role like this, like an angry fucking mob leader. That would have been pretty wild. So I'll go with Anthony Michael Hall as well.
All right. I'll also accept the Mulaney's. I was very interested in this crew. At the beginning of the movie, you see Lonnie as a little kid in that flashback, and he's terrorized by a group of white trash neighbors that call themselves the Mulaney's. And I was like, well, I gotta know more about the Mulaney's. How do they grow up? I thought they were gonna come back later in the movie. We were gonna see Michael Myers kill them as adults.
That'd be nice.
I don't know. It just seemed like we introduced characters and then didn't do anything. I mean, I expect them to be in the next movie. I don't know what the fuck. Why did we introduce these people?
I don't know. It was odd to show Lonnie was bullied, but what purpose did that even serve?
Especially considering Lonnie was the bully. When he's hiding from Michael, we hear him say, "I'm sorry for bullying Tommy."
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He's the one who makes Tommy fall on his pumpkin. which is
Okay.
a very sad moment.